All right, guys, welcome back to the Buck Fever podcast. We have a full house here tonight. You got pretty much everybody. You got me, you got Jake, and the two of us are probably not going to do a whole lot of talking in this episode because we're going to really be focused on the events of this past weekend's youth hunt. And to fill us in on that, we have Kolbe, who was hunting with his kids and ended up shooting a pretty nice doe. And then we have Eli and his stepson Ty, who had plenty of action of their own there. So, first off, I guess let's start with Jake, just so he can get a few words in here, because I don't know how much we're really gonna have to say. But, buddy, I don't think you were hunting this weekend. Typically, you guys like to avoid the youth hunt, right?
Yeah, it's about the one weekend I don't hunt during bow season. It's like the project weekend, get stuff done around the farm if we have to. Or this case, I was taking out a pier back home, so kind of a nice little off weekend for us. But after that, it's pretty much go till gun season. So
Yeah, that's typically what you guys kind of use that as, like that midpoint in the season, take a little break, and then get your projects done and go back at it.
yeah, that's kind of how we look at it. So and well, obviously none of us are youth, and we don't really have anyone in the family who's youth or who wants to go. So give the property a little break, and then we hit it hard after this. So
Right. Well, and you specifically have fulfilled your duties for the season for the most part, so you deserve a weekend off, I think.
right, I mean, I would love to be out there with that cold front. I mean, even just sitting and filming, but um, cameras they were hopping a lot of does and fawns moving early. I mean, the last couple nights we've had tons of pictures. I'm getting 30 pictures at 7 o'clock of lots of does and fawns moving around during daylight. So I think this weekend's going to be quite the doe mission. There's going to be three of us out there, so we might try and whack a few. And you're always more than welcome to come and whack a few if you want.
Yeah, shoot 10 of them or something.
Yeah, run out of tags.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was out this weekend, and kind of the opposite of what your cameras were. We just didn't really see much at all. I don't know if that had something to do with my dad shooting his buck the week before, and things kind of getting blown out of there from tracking and gutting and whatever. But that cold front didn't help us out at all. I don't know what happened there, but it sounds like Colby and Eli and Ty definitely had a good youth hunt weekend with that cold front and everything. So let's go to Eli and Ty first, because you guys struck first for the weekend.
All right. Um, it was an awesome weekend. This is one that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Um, so yeah, we did strike first. Ty and I got out there on Saturday morning. What time did I pick you up, bud?
Like 5:15.
Yeah, about 5:15, and we got out there and kind of started talking a little bit about strategy on the way out. And our plan was to go to this area that we call the Corner Woods. Um, it's kind of just a transition area. It's a small block of woods that connects to two major ridge and valley systems, and then on each side of it there's agriculture, and it's just kind of a hot spot for doe. Um, it's a hot spot for bucks once we get a little bit closer to the rut, and we had been seeing quite a bit of buck activity, a lot of like 2-year-olds, but really, really nice bucks. And Ty had made a goal. What was your goal, bud?
Get a buck.
Yeah, how many years you been hunting?
Like 4.
Yeah, I think this might even be your 5th year. I think you were 8 years old the first time I took you out, and you ended up shooting a doe. And I think you shot 3 or 4 doe coming into this weekend. And the last couple of years, your main focus has been on just getting that first buck under your belt. So anyways, just backstory. 2 years ago, he was 2 years ago he was really thinking about shooting a buck, and we ended up having a buck come out in the field. And what did you tell me?
It's too little.
He says it's too little. And I'm like, come on, shoot it. You don't have a buck yet. So, anyways, he's been listening to me a little bit too much, I think. But anyways, our plan was to go out to the corner woods there on Saturday morning, and as we were walking out to the woods there, we ended up having a pretty nice buck jump out in front of us about 20 yards, and the buck was upwind of us, he was upwind of us. So we were actually, no, let's see, yeah, he was upwind of us. So we were good to go. He did not smell us, and we kind of saw where he was going. So tell him about what we tried to do.
Well, kind of tried to like get around, sneak up to the other side of that corner of the field, try to kind of like corner him almost, and try to get a shot on him.
Yep. So we're in southwestern Wisconsin. There's a lot of hills, a lot of terrain features, which is kind of nice. So we kind of ran up, got behind the hill, and ran up forward about 200 yards to try to set up and intercept him before he got into the woods. And by this time it was full daylight, and when we got over there, the buck had beat us, and we could hear him down in the corn eating corn, and then we could hear him walk off into the woods. So pretty exciting moment there. I know I was sweating by the time we were done with it, just because we were running, covering ground, and then we decided to get back to our original plan of getting set up into the corner woods. So we went over there and sort of still hunted our way, I'd say about 100 yards, and we were down into that woods, and we were kind of right in the center of it. They had the neighbor clear cut the section that's right next to it a few years back, and it's just nasty, like so nasty that maybe at this point some deer could bed in it, but I mean, Pat, you can talk about that. Like, it's just so twisted, and like you can't even walk through there. So our wind was blowing right into that section, and we ended up sitting on the ground. How long were we there for, buddy?
Before the dogs walked by?
Yeah.
Probably like 15, somewhere around
Yeah, 15 minutes, and then what happened?
there. A little trail of 6 does walked about like 3 feet in front of us.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to film all this stuff, and Ty says, Eli, there's deer right there. And there is one doe, and then I see a second doe, and then I see a third doe, and then I see a fourth doe, and a fifth, and a sixth, and they're like, at this point, 10 yards away, and I don't even have the camera on. And we just sat there real still, and they were kind of looking at us, but then they kept coming, and they literally walked 3 feet in front of Ty, and we're just sitting on the ground wearing blaze orange, not really tucked into any thick brush. I mean, there's some brush around us, but it wasn't like super thick. And I mean, I was about to crap my pants. I can't even imagine what you were thinking when you had all these deer that were right there. Like, you probably could have reached the butt of the gun out almost and touched one of them. They were that close. So they end up kind of working around us, working past, and then sort of the main doe in the group ended up trying to circle back and catch our wind, because they just kept looking at us but had no idea what was going on. And at one point we had this arc of 6 doe that spread like 30 yards kind of around us. So everywhere you look, there's a deer. So that was pretty awesome. They ended up blowing and running off down the hill. And we just kind of talked a little bit about what that means. So what does it mean when the doe starts blowing?
It's kind of like warning the other ones, like something isn't right, dangers or something like that.
Yeah. So we did that, and what was our plan if that were to happen again? Yep. The plan was to shoot one. So we're in the middle of that conversation, and Ty looks and he says, "Oh, there's one coming back," and that this doe just couldn't help herself. She had to know what the heck we were, and she worked her way back up and tell him about the process of her getting up there.
Well, she was walking up there, and there's a couple of trees in the way of that, and this one main tree, I was kind of put my gun up on the stand and wait for her to get her on this one tree. And it was kind of getting towards the end of the morning, and I didn't really want to go home empty-handed, so I figured I might as well just shoot him. And she went around that tree, and then her butt was like a little bit in it still. I could see her chest clearly. She put her head up one more time, and then that's all there was. And then pretty much shot her.
Yep. And you made a perfect shot on that one. As this was going on, I realized that for where that deer was, the camera on the tripod for me sitting on the ground was way too low. So I had picked the thing up and was just holding the tripod up in the air to try to get this deer in the frame. And I didn't even know he was going to shoot. And all of a sudden I hear boom. And I about scared the crap out of me. I got a streak in my pants still from that. Um, but yeah, perfect shot. Um, we gave her a little bit. You were pretty excited.
Mm-hmm.
You basically went running over there. I said, hey, you remember where you shot her? What did you tell me?
No.
No, I have no clue. So it actually helped out having the camera because, I mean, I was just tucked in the brush and I'm sitting there looking at about a 2-inch screen. So I didn't know exactly where she was either. But we watched the footage back, and she, like, I could lean my head back and see her, but I don't think the camera could see her. But I could see the direction that Ty shot because right when he shot, some brush moved. So we ended up going over there to look for blood a little bit. Didn't find anything. I said, I'm going to go back and get all of our stuff. And then what happened when I was back by all of our stuff?
Well, she was back there, back by the stuff getting it already, and I was still looking for a little bit of blood around the area where I shot her. And I looked in front of me, and about probably like 20 yards coming out of some weeds, another doe. And I was just standing there looking for blood. And then she came out, and I kind of like whispered and screamed at the same time. I was like, Eli. And then he heard me, and then he looked over and saw it, and then kind of just froze there for like another while. And then she eventually knew something was a little wrong. Went off a little bit, and it started to come back down a little bit. And then she kind of went out towards the right side of where we were. And then she was gone, and then I was just like in shock because honestly, I was a little bit scared because I thought it was gonna like run at me or something.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We got that on camera. I kind of panned back and forth. I'm like, well, there's a deer. Oh, there's Ty, just standing there right in the middle. And it ended up being, it was a nubby buck. So he didn't know any better. He's just going over there trying to make a friend. But eventually we got on the blood trail, and you did an awesome job of tracking that. I kind of just hung back and let you do your thing, and wouldn't you know it, she basically died right on top of a road where I could drive my truck to, and we had about a 3-yard drag to the back of the truck for the first deer of the weekend.
Yeah, that's not bad at all,
Well,
man.
it's nice when they're like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was sweet.
that sounds like a pretty pretty good start to the youth hunt weekend there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the older I get, and we'll talk more about this later, but um, the older I get, and the older Ty starts getting, like those are my some of my favorite hunts are to go out with him, and he's still pretty new at this, and just to be able to see the excitement of a new hunter, just taking it all in, and to be able to watch him learn, and he's getting older now where he can start to do a couple of things, more on his own, and he can decide when he's going to shoot, and I don't have to tell him how to find a deer in the scope or any of that stuff. It's just really fun and enjoyable to be part of that and be able to watch him.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Ty kicked it off in a big way on the opening morning there of the youth hunt, and we're gonna come back to you later because things got even better for you guys as the weekend went on. But let's head over to Kolbe now because I know you guys had a little bit of success there on Saturday night.
Yeah. So I went up to my family deer camp in central Wisconsin. I actually took both of my older kids, my 7 and 8-year-old, took them out of school actually on Friday. So we went up there Thursday night, got settled in, just trying to give them a whole fun experience of just being up at deer camp. My dad was up there, so their grandpa was up there. We played a lot of little board games, Jenga, watched some movies, spent some good time in the cabin. We didn't hunt any mornings just because it's just a little rough getting the little ones up and out that early. But so we kind of kicked the weekend off Friday night, and to my surprise, I figured I was going to be hunting with both kids in the blind with me all weekend, which would make getting a shot off at a deer super challenging, or even more challenging than it already is. But to my surprise, when I asked if someone wanted to go sit with Grandpa and someone wanted to come sit with me, my son Ryan chimes in right away and says, "I'll go sit with Grandpa." So off he went with Grandpa, and Brinley, my daughter's 8-year-old, came with me. And Friday night we had some decent action. We were sitting in the inside corner of a field and had some does and fawn, a couple different, I bet you 3, maybe even 4 different doe fawn family groups kind of like worked past us, and I think I drew my bow 4 different times and never got a shot off. Like, just every time I draw the bow, they'd be standing behind a tree. It was really windy Friday night, so like the deer seemed like a little bit on edge and were a little skittish. That just seems to always be the case up there whenever it's really windy. And so they were always just kind of on the move, and whenever I would draw my bow, and meanwhile, I'm trying to film this at the same time. So whenever I'm trying to adjust the camera, then draw my bow, the deer would stop behind a tree. And then I would let down, or I'd have to like switch windows, and then they'd be on the move and I'd be in the wrong window, or, I'd have to let down again and redraw. And it just never materialized into a shot. So, but we still had a really fun sit, enjoyed our time together. And then Saturday night we flipped, the kids flipped, and Brinley went with Grandpa, and Ryan came with me, and had a doe and a fawn work in, or a doe and a yearling. A little spike buck came in behind them, and the doe ended up working within range. And boy, I thought I had it on camera. I'm trying to adjust the frame and get it ahead of where I think the deer's going to walk to, and by golly, watching it back, the deer takes, about 2 steps out of frame. But regardless, I got the shot and got the deer running off afterwards. And it was about a 33 to 35 yard shot, I think. My son was jacked up and super excited. And we ended up waiting until dark because there was another hunter on the neighboring property, which it ran into, kind of hunting in that area. So we waited until dark, and you could see my lighted knock in the field, had a pass through, and me and Ryan got on that blood trail and followed it through the field, teaching him along the way what to look for. And he was actually spotting some of the blood before I was. So it was pretty fun to see him excited about it and then taking to it right away. And we followed it into out of the field. And sure enough, it only was about 10, 15 yards, into the neighboring property. But just cool seeing my son's reaction there at the, where we found the deer and how excited he was. And I pulled out, those trusty butt cuffs I'm always talking about to drag it out of there. And he was dead set on, he was going to be grabbing one of them handles and helping Dad drag the deer out. So sure enough, he's holding on to one of the handles and we're dragging it out as a team. It doesn't matter if I was 99% of that and he was only 1% pulling. He felt just as part of the experience as I did, I'm sure. And that was awesome. I was loving every second of that, seeing his enjoyment of it. And we dragged it to the field edge and he helped hold the light and hold the leg at times, and we gutted it out. And he was asking questions and I was showing him some of the deer anatomy, and he wasn't surprisingly grossed out at all by any of it. So more intrigued and interested by the whole process. So even showed him the deer heart. And I actually, my broadhead had sliced some of the deer heart, and I was telling him how we can eat actual deer heart. And he's like, Dad, do you want to keep that and eat it? But, which surprised me again, a 7-year-old interested in eating deer heart. But it was sliced up a little bit, so we didn't keep that deer heart. But a little bit while later, then Brindley came with, Grandpa on the 4-wheeler and helped hook it up. And, we got back to the cabin and Brindley got to crank it up onto the buck pole, and both kids kind of got to be part of the whole experience of us having a deer at camp. So it was pretty special, just getting to share it, with my dad and my 2 kids. And that's 3 generations worth of the Kolbe family up there at camp. And like Eli says, and me and him, had this conversation just a day or 2 ago, we're starting to phase into a different, at least in some aspects of our hunting. Don't get me wrong, we're still out there doing a lot on our own, but when this phase comes, and it's coming really soon, where it's going to be more about our kids and their success and setting them up, I mean, we're both ready for it, and we enjoy that aspect and have no problem sacrificing our own hunts per se to help put them into great situations. Because I'll tell you, just seeing the joy on their faces, and I got to see some of the video already of what's to come here from Ty, and it just makes me excited seeing that. I mean, the kids are the future of the sport, so it's cool to see them all involved. And just this whole weekend, seeing all the pictures on Wisconsin Rut Report of kids holding does and small bucks and big bucks and all kinds of deer and posing behind them. Just the genuine smiles and excitement was across the state. I thought was really cool to see.
Oh yeah, it's a cool thing, and it sounds like everybody had a pretty good time there when you shot that, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We ended up cutting it up. We left it hang overnight, and me and my dad cut it up right away Sunday morning. And when I got home actually last night, and then me and my wife, we ground most of it up into ground venison burger, because we just are flat out. I kept a couple of the back straps. I didn't quite pull a Jaeger on it, but I kept the back straps and the football roast. But the rest of it got ground into burger. And then tonight we actually made a venison Philly biscuit bake, which will be the next recipe you'll see from Buck Fever Outdoors. I'll have that one cooked up pretty soon. So yeah, and that was the ground meat right from the dough. So pretty cool to bring it full circle already and tell the kids we were eating the dough that we shot this weekend.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're Mr. Wild Game Kitchen there, and some of that, I'm sure, has rubbed off on the kids now to where they're not afraid to eat wild game. And, some of those recipes, you've talked about it, and some of the write-ups there about how they, almost prefer it sometimes. They seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah, we eat so much of it. I don't know that they, they're just so used to it. That's what is for on our table a lot is wild game. So I think they're just used to it. We actually made me and Brinley, she helped me. We made venison, just 4 pounds of ground jerky last night too. And
Nice.
my dehydrator was taking forever. I was up at midnight, 2:30, 5:30, or just like every couple hours checking the temperature on it. And that's a story for a different day. But I had to finish it off in the oven this morning so that it was actually up to temperature so I could go to work. It was just taking forever, but we made some venison jerky out of that dough as well. So,
Nice.
well, yeah, putting it to use already.
Speaking of backstrap, Kolbe, from that buck I shot, I saved all of them, and I'm gonna eat some this weekend at the cabin. But if you sweet talk, maybe I'll bring some up to Minnesota.
Ooh. Now we're talking. See, I like this. We're rubbing off on you already, Jake.
I know, and I'm pretty excited to try some recipes. Maybe I'll ask you for some this weekend, but we're gonna be a full camp up at the cabin, so I figured, I might as well try and cook some on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
we get the aura.
That's right.
No chili
There's
in
nothing
Minnesota, right, Kolbe?
Oh man, I see. This we were up. I think I talked to Eli about this too. Like that's like our staples up over there. We always have like a crock pot of. We have a crock pot of sloppy Joe, venison sloppy joes, and then sometimes Eli brings a big crock pot of chili. So I was like, "What the heck?" When you said you're out on those two.
Yeah. No, I'm
two
bringing
items.
those.
I'm bringing PB&J.
You might want to change your mind. I mean, I'm telling you, those hills over there are massive, and sometimes you just need a little extra boost to get you up to the top of them.
No, I'm I'm gonna have to bring PB&J. Mom forgot to put the lunch money in. I'm eating cheese and crackers or whatever they're gonna give me.
I don't think I've ever seen you eat a PB&J in my life.
I mean, it's not my first choice, but if it's that or chili or sloppy joes, it's certainly not my last choice. So,
I'm just curious now. What's the turnoff with? I feel like every person in the world likes the sloppy Joe. Like I've never heard anyone that doesn't. I mean, maybe it's not their favorite, but like everyone eats them.
There's just some things, Kolbe, I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Oh.
I think it's just, I mean, I really don't know.
I mean, you were saying the same thing about Busch Light too, and I did get to watch you drink about 6 or 8 of those. So it might be the same, maybe an acquired taste now that you're coming of age.
Well, I've said that that's not like it's not good, but it's not. I haven't said it's like my least favorite. It's not an absolute no for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be number one, but it's not last. Chili's last place. That's the bottom of the barrel. You know what I mean?
No kidding.
I don't know. I can't explain it. Nobody agrees with me, of course. I've never, I can't win an argument on this. I know that I'm wrong, but it's just what my body's telling me. It says, nope, you can't eat that. It doesn't want to.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm pretty sure my body has said the same thing to me after I've eaten chili.
Mine tells me beforehand. It says no. It won't let me do it. Well, we'll figure something out. We've got a little bit of time there.
I do have some slightly breaking news, like phenomenon this weekend. I may have a new favorite tree stand snack.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
And this is saying a lot because like I've been the Nutty Bar I've been, that's been a staple of mine. I've been banging the beat of that drum for a long time, but prior to this trip I took the kids to Fleet Farm or the grocery store or something, and part of the deal was they got to pick out each got to pick out a snack for the tree stand, and my son picked out like the mega stuffed Oreos, and
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's just the fact that I haven't had Oreos in a while, but like we didn't bring the whole box of them out there, although I'm sure we could have pounded them. But we put them into smaller sandwich bags, and boy, when we busted out those Oreos, man, I was like, oh my God, this might have to be the new staple going forward. Like it was, I don't know, it was at another level. So I might be transferring over to bringing Oreos every time out.
That's totally
No,
fine. There's nothing better than an Oreo. I thought you were gonna sit here and tell me that you know the new snack was apples or something, and I was gonna just end the podcast right then and there. But Oreos, yeah, for sure. You get that. That's valid.
Yeah, I do like an apple, but that can't be like your number one. That's way too healthy to be your number one favorite snack in the tree.
I agree.
now before you make the switch, have you eaten an Oreo and a Nutty Bar at the same time, side by side, to test the new theory?
No, I didn't have surprisingly did not have a Nutty Bar along, so I might have to do a video one of these hunts and truly get a test up in the stand and get a true determination to see what prevails.
Now, when it comes to Nutty Bars, you're on my side though, right? You don't break it apart. You just eat it like a normal human being.
Yeah, like a normal human being. I will say, watching my son eat an Oreo, he was doing the dissection method, like
That's what I was gonna ask you.
peeling out. No, Oreo, I'm the same way with pretty much all food, just like shove it
Yeah,
in the mouth and go to town, eat it.
yeah. You're not gonna Dahmer it up first. You just eat it.
But yeah, my son with Oreo, he was like breaking it apart. He took just the whole, the cream filled stuffing and was just like waving that around and then eating that part and breaking his Oreo cookie in half, and definitely doing a little dissection process where, I already had all 3 or 5 of mine pounded down by the time he was dissecting one Oreo himself. So
Yeah, he might be a little twisted there, Kolbe. I think he's gonna end up on a watch list someday. You might want to keep an eye on
right.
him.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch this, see if this is a pattern.
That was a great rabbit hole, by the way. I think that was perfect.
Yeah, what did we get? 15 minutes out of bagging on some foods
Snacks.
and yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, I suppose
Why not?
we should probably get to the good stuff here because it didn't just end with those couple of does from the sounds of it.
No, it did not. You want me to run with that?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'll run with that. All right. So Saturday night, Ty had some of his cousins in town, so he was not able to hunt. And I went down with the intention of going hunting because it was the best day that we've had all bow season weather-wise. And I was roped into a project of putting up one of our elevated box blinds. We ended up buying 2, or the landowner bought 2, and then Pat and I helped out with some of the platforms for him to get them up off of the ground. But anyways, the first one was going in on Saturday, and the reason that we had to wait that long is because there were crops up until pretty recently, where just dragging them over there and putting them up and just getting to the spots would have damaged the crops pretty bad. So kind of had to wait till the beans came off. But I ended up getting roped into that, and as a lot of projects go, it did not move along as quickly as I had hoped it would. So long story short, I did not get to hunt, but did get get that thing put together and up and in a spot. So that is important to note, because the next day, Ty and I were heading back out in the afternoon, so this would be Sunday, and we had a little conversation about where he wanted to hunt. So Ty, go ahead and talk about what your options were and where you ended up choosing to sit and why.
Food plot. There's a little, there's a, things that put in there. The thought was that,
Eli, you're kind of breaking up on me here.
Can you hear Ty at all?
No, not great. Something's going on.
He's pretty fuzzy.
What's that?
He's pretty fuzzy.
Fuzzy? All right, here, talk into this one. See if it gets better. They'll tell you if it's better. Go ahead.
Is it better now?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Alright, so basically the first option was the food plot, and obviously the new blind was up the day before, and one of the things about choosing that spot was like it could have been a little bit like, a little bit iffy because it's a brand new thing and the deer probably didn't know what to think of it quite yet. But I still chose there. And what was the other spot?
The other spot was over by the oak, where there were a lot of bucks and got a water hole.
Yeah, in the ocean, there's a water hole, and there's been quite a bit of bucks over there. But we chose the food plot, and it didn't take us long to get in there. I don't think we saw anything on the way in, did we?
No, not on the way in.
No, nothing on the way in. And here, do you want one of these back yet?
So yeah, I let Ty make that decision on his own of where he wanted to hunt. Kind of ran through all of, the pluses and minuses of both different spots, and he ended up settling in on sitting on the food plot in the new blind. We got in there and it was hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that spot faces right into the west, and the windows had been shut, and it wasn't hot out on Sunday, but I bet it was pushing 80 degrees. So it didn't take long, and Ty was down to his t-shirt. I was down to my just base layer bottoms, and had just a thin long sleeve on that had the sleeves pushed up to my elbows. So we were cooking pretty good, but opened a few windows.
I saw that. I saw the little video clip of you guys down in your t-shirts, and I'm like, oh man, that blind's got to be cooking, because it wasn't, it was only 54 degrees or whatever on Sunday. And that makes me worried what that thing's how much of a sauna it's going to be early season when it actually is 80 degrees out.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's insulated, but I've already been thinking about a couple of solutions. So, one of the perks of having teenage boys is that you have to learn to tolerate the heat all summer, going to baseball games every day. So we have a 3-year-old too, so I don't know how many of those little squirt bottle fans we have and stuff like that, but that's not something you typically think about taking out to the woods with you, but that's going to go on the list of things to pack if we're hunting the early season. Anyways, we're sitting in that blind, and there was really no action. The sun went down. You can see the Mississippi River from that spot, and the sun dropped down and got behind the bluffs on the opposite side of the Mississippi. So it finally started to get a little bit like real cool, and both of us actually put like clothes back on when that happened. And the windows in that thing are tinted, so I ended up opening up one corner window just to be able to see down into where deer pop out a lot, so I could see down there a little bit better. And I opened that window up, and it wasn't a minute later. I'm looking down there, and I said, "Ty, buck." So, Ty, you probably should take it from here.
Well, so pretty much, he told me there was a buck, and I think I was sitting at the floor on the floor at that time. I got back up and sat back on my chair, and he was right in that corner. That window was open, so he was coming up one of those trails. He didn't know what to think of the blind at first. He was kind of just staring at it the whole time, and then got my gun up there really slowly because he was just creepy, like he was just looking at us the whole time. And then got the gun stand ready, got the gun on it, and he was just standing on it still. And then he started to turn around, and he was just at the corner. He started to turn around and walk out, and then he looked one last time over, and these things just powered off.
I can still hear you.
Oh, well, anyways, can you hear me through the earbuds?
Yep.
All right. So he saw us and walked out through the trail, and he looked back one last time, and Eli said, "If I was ready, I'm good." And I shot at him and hit him really good, and he kind of started off pretty slow, and he ran away back in the woods, and then it's kind of it. And then we had to wait a little bit. Yeah, and then yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. The gig was up, and that was sort of the fear of going in that spot is like literally we finished assembling it right as it got dark the night before, and he walked out and looked up there and went, "Oh, there's something different," and he was not going to commit to coming in. I really don't think he could see us, but just that blind being there was enough of a deterrent where he was not going to come all the way into the food plot. And Ty did it perfect. He ended up making a perfect shot on him, and that deer only made it about 15 yards. And the moment that we got to share after that was, I'll just say that was priceless. There were a lot of emotions and excitement, and from Ty and from me, after he made that shot. Pretty awesome.
It looked like a pretty cool moment there. That certainly was not a little buck by any stretch of the imagination. That was a pretty good one to get under your belt for a first buck.
Yeah. So he can't hear you now because one of our earpods died. But let me switch over here to speaker one. How that goes.
Okay.
We gotcha.
Yep.
All right. So, anyways, what was going through your head, buddy, after you made that shot?
I was pretty happy. I mean, I've been looking for a buck for pretty much after my second year of hunting. I really wanted one. It's pretty awesome that my first one that I shoot is one that any person would be proud of shooting. Like, that thing was big.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah. I left that detail out when I told him there's a buck coming. I think the first time I mentioned anything about it being big was after he shot and we had hugged, and I'm like, "Hey, nice job, buddy. You know, I think you got him." And I said, "I think he was a pretty big one."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, anyways, throughout this whole thing, you know, just to not to take away from the story, but I was sitting like a fool on the right of the camera, and the screen that flips out on the camera is on the left side of the camera. So this thing comes out, and I'm like, gosh darn it, like, we got this window open. If the window were still closed, I could easily get up and move and get myself into a better spot, and get the phone turned on so you can see what's going on inside of the blind. But no, I end up having to flip the screen like straight down, and I'm leaned over, like looking up at it, trying, just like hoping that the thing was in the frame. And I'm so thankful that we caught the shot and everything in the frame. That was sweet.
Yeah, it was all on there. It was pretty cool.
Yep. One of the coolest things, Pat and I were just talking about this on the phone yesterday. I was home. My daughter was sick. We were chatting towards the end of the day, and just a lot of memories there. That was the property where I took my first buck, and I remember the morning that happened. I wasn't hunting in that spot, but Pat was hunting in a ground blind that we had set up, probably, I don't know, within 30 yards of where that box blind just went up. And like, he could see me coming across the field and could tell I was excited, and ended up getting out of the blind. And within 15 yards of where Ty and I had that big hug, Pat and I had a big hug when I shot my first buck. So it's pretty cool that 17 years later, Ty got to have that same excitement, and basically in the exact same spot that I did. So I, just a lot of different great memories out there. And I was more excited watching him do it, I think, than I am when I shoot bucks. Like, it's just a really cool thing to be able to pass it on and see the excitement and love for the sport continue into another generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that was something Kolbe kind of wanted to touch on here at the end of the episode too. Just what that youth hunt means, to both the kids and the parents, and passing that along to the next generation. Because I know sometimes the youth hunt gets a little bit of hate. Some people, understandably maybe have some apprehensions about it, but there's definitely a ton of positives that come out of it. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit here, Kolbe.
Yeah, I mean, my kids that truly haven't participated in it yet. I've kind of used this youth hunt weekend, I think the last 3 years now, counting this year, to take them along and be part of the experience. When I feel they're ready to handle a weapon on their own, I'll certainly have them partake in this youth weekend. I do think this weekend gets a really, in some cases, a bad rap. Just like anything in hunting, I feel like any or a few bad apples can spoil it or make it look bad for the whole of the good that's really going on. And again, like, seeing all the social media posts of all these kids across the state gripping and grinning behind does, spike bucks, 6-pointers, some of them 160-inch deer, Ty's beautiful buck, that genuine smile and excitement. Like, how can you not think that this youth weekend is a good thing? How can you be like so selfish to the point where, like, oh, they shot my buck, or blah blah blah? Like, I mean, the excitement we were all in those shoes at one point, right? Where we experienced our first kill, our first harvest, and that genuine excitement is so pure, and it's awesome to see. Are there people probably taking advantage of it and doing some shady things? Yep, but that's with just about any aspect. Those are the same people that are probably violating in other ways. So let's just eliminate that, bottom 5% of, losers that can't follow any regulations, no matter what they are, and look at the good of the whole of what this whole weekend does for our young hunters across the state. It gets them, if it can get hunters hooked in, or young kids hooked on this sport, like, let's be honest, our numbers are dwindling. We need all the hunters in the woods that we can get. And if it's a way to get our next generation of hunters, hooked on the sport, and they can get out there and experience it with a family member or a mentor or, someone like that, it's awesome. Like me and Eli were talking, like, it was such a cool experience, not just for our kids, but also for us as well, to be able to share a blind and talk about what's going on and have that experience, like, for both of us, for our kids and for us, being together in the moment. So I think there's just so many positives that come out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that a little bit. I think, Pat, you did a really good job of laying that out. But if anybody thinks about their best experiences that they've ever had, your best memories, it's very, very rare to find somebody that has their best memory as something that they did by themselves. Like, hunting is sort of an individual sport. It's an autonomous thing where you're out there by yourself, but like, the kill shot when I'm by myself isn't what I remember. I remember who was there hunting with me, or who came to help me drag a deer out of the woods, and where did we go get cocktails, and reminisce about all these great memories that we have. And it's about the people that you share it with. So the youth hunt in particular creates a great opportunity for family time, for time with close friends. And like Pat said, numbers are dwindling. So if numbers dwindle, that's less advocates for public land. That's less advocates for conservation. That's less funding for our DNR. And I know not everybody's a huge fan of the DNR, but like, that's where a lot of the money comes from that supports the hunting opportunities that we have within our state. So to be able to say that, like, to make a comment about a kid who shoots a deer and say, like, oh yeah, I'm sure they did a lot of scouting and stuff about it. Like, if you're one of those people and you're listening, I really don't care if you're offended by hearing this, but just stop, right? You have no business being able to have that judgment. Number one, the people that are posting these pictures, like, are they all your neighbors? Did you have an opportunity to shoot that big buck that a kid shot? Like, you didn't. And put all that aside, look at their faces in the picture. And that tells the whole story. And like, scrolling through, I don't ever go on Bookface to communicate with people and stuff, but I go on there and look at Rut Report and just, see what kind of action there is. And holy cow, the amount of young girls that are on there, out there hunting is impressive. Like, it's a good thing for hunting as a sport. It's a good way to get kids hooked on it. You get to use a gun. Your odds are increased. You're not out there when it's Switz. You'll appreciate it when it's 15 degrees and you're sitting there shivering and shaking. Like,
Yep.
It creates a real positive experience for them that, can get them hooked in and, be able to continue the sport that all of us have a passion for.
Yeah, and I think you guys do it in such a good way too, where a lot of people, the problem they have is, oh, it's a 6-year-old who's out on their first time ever, and just pulls the trigger on a 150 incher and has no idea what they're doing, or any of that stuff. That's the image that a lot of people have in their heads about the youth hunt. But you guys have been taking your kids now for years, and there's been plenty of nights where there hasn't been success, and you're teaching them to the point where they can, do some of these things, where Ty can mostly track a deer on his own and, knows when to shoot and where to shoot and all those things. It's the knowledge that you're passing along to where, these kids are actually hunting. They're not just out there killing and being told everything of what to do. You're actually passing that knowledge along, and that's the most important part there. And the youth hunt is a great opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Like we were, as we're even just walking through the woods, just trying to pass on woodsmanship skills, like talking about which trees, like why are these acorns here? Where are they coming from? I know I was spending a lot of time just teaching both my kids how to walk quieter, like how to place your feet versus, dragging your feet through the leaves. And we walked side by side and we compared like how much noise we were making, and you could see the light bulbs going off in their head. And anytime they asked why, like I'm just taking the time to like explain to them what's going on. And it was great. That's what it's all about. Passing it on, and it's just so fun to see them learn and grow and take an interest in it. It's just a ton of fun as a dad.
Ty, do you remember our first hunt that we went on together? You weren't hunting, you came with me. Do you remember it?
It was bow hunting.
It was bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember what happened?
This is like we out there for like 15 minutes, and then I went frog hunting.
First, I waited until like the last possible minute because I knew his attention span wasn't going to be that long. But we got out there and finally get set up, and like 10 minutes later, I hear and turn around, and he's taking a leak. Ty, what are you doing? He says, I'm making dough pea. And about 5 minutes later, he goes, hey, Eli. I said, yeah. He goes, can we just go look for frogs? I said, yeah, buddy, we can go look for frogs. That's not a problem.
Oh, man.
But he made it back out there, and now look at him.
Exactly. From a dough pea maker and a frog looker to big buck slayer, just like that.
Big buck slayer. That's right.
Yeah, it was fun for my end too. Sunday night, driving home and getting to call these guys, getting to call Eli and Ty and talk to them and hear the excitement in their voice and in Ty's voice and say congratulations and all that stuff. And I know for a fact it's gonna be the jump start to him picking up that bow a lot more often, and I'm sure it's not going to be long, whether it's this year or next year. I'm sure he'll be out there with a bow relatively soon too. I think this was the bug that scratches the itch or whatever bug bite that makes you scratch the itch. I don't know. Whatever analogy we get what I'm trying to say, but I think he's going to be hooked now for sure.
Yeah.
What'd you say to me on the way home, buddy? Do you remember? On the drive home?
Mm-mm.
On the drive home, Ty says he's kind of quiet for a little bit, and all of a sudden he goes, I'm kind of bummed. And I'm thinking, oh boy, what are we bummed about here? And he goes, I'm kind of bummed that I'm not going to get to shoot a buck during Wisconsin gun season this year. I'm like, oh yeah, that's outstanding.
Yeah, that's how it starts. That's how you know you're hooked right there.
Yeah.
Jake, are you still with us, buddy?
Yeah. No,
Atta
I'm just
kid.
taking it all in.
Yeah.
Listening, and I like how, we're kind of in a different stage than them, but, with being over the youth hunt, I remember when I was younger, I didn't go on the youth hunt much, but I always wanted to sit by myself. As soon as I was bow hunting, I was like, yeah, can I sit by myself? And, the rules where you can't, or I don't know what it was. You had to be like 12 or something like that. So I shot my first deer with him, my first couple were with him. And, I was so excited to get out on my own. And now it's like, like, you know, how Eli was saying, it's not as fun when you're by. I mean, it's still fun when you're by yourself, but now I get the chance to, if I shoot a deer, or even if I don't, I'll go sit with my dad. If he wants me to, or he's all right, that I go sit with him all the time. And, you know, that's when we have way better memories, like Eli was saying. And I got to film him shoot his first buck with the bow in 17 years because I was sitting with him, and just way better than, you know, when someone else is there, especially someone who brought you into it.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Like you said, we're a couple of years off from being in the position of Kolbe and Eli here, but someday we'll be there.
Right.
Yeah, man, just
Well-
enjoy all the stages that you go through as a hunter. It's all good. And spot on getting to sit with other people, like, and I know we touched on it before, but you know, just the times down the last couple of years where me and Eli have gotten to sit together, or you know, I've sat with a couple other buddies. It's just really enjoyable getting to go with somebody, and sometimes it's just putting aside, like, yeah, who cares who gets one, or it's just fun being along with somebody else and getting to share the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's tie a ribbon on this thing. Ty's got to go dream about his next one.
All right. Well, you, Eli and Ty, do you guys want to take it away here? Send us off.
Go for it.
Hmm.
You gotta thank everybody for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.
What did it say? I'm still not up on it. Like something,
Yep.
subscribe, whatever. Yep. All right.
Liking and subscribing, all good things.
Yep. Just do what you're supposed to do, and we really appreciate, you know, everybody that stuck with us this long, and hope you can take something away from this podcast. I know it's a special one when you get to see your kids be able to enjoy it. So appreciate it. Good luck out in the woods, and get the fever going, baby.
That's right. Thanks, guys.